Those 7 words, spoken by a tall stranger in a flowing white robe, changed my life forever. Come with me. Trust me. They will regret this. I was sitting on the cold marble floor of Dubai International Airport, shaking, hungry, and completely alone. When he stopped in front of me, he looked down at a crying American girl surrounded by gold shops so expensive she felt like she didn't even belong near them. But let me go back 4 hours earlier, to the moment I realized my own mother had left me behind. I was 14 years old, standing at gate 23, watching the plane to Bangkok slowly move down the runway. My family was on that plane. I was not. It was just me, a skinny kid in an oversized t-shirt, slowly understanding what had happened. My mother had looked at my brother, believed his lies, and walked onto that plane without looking back even once. She didn't lose me in the crowd. She didn't get confused. She left me on purpose. 4 hours later, when police called her in Bangkok, when she finally learned what her golden boy had really been planning, when she discovered this was not about a vacation but about $600,000, her face turned white like a corpse. To understand why this moment became the best thing that ever happened to me, you need to know how invisible I had been my entire life. My name is Molly Underwood. I am 32 years old now, and I run a successful import-export business. But back then, at 14, I was nothing more than the background character in my own family. You know how some people light up a room when they walk in? I was the opposite. I was human wallpaper, the kind of kid who could sit at the dinner table and still somehow not be noticed. My mother, Patricia, worked double shifts as a hospital administrator. She had done that ever since my father died when I was 6. His death hit our family hard, but it hit my brother Spencer the hardest. At least, that's what my mother always believed. Spencer was 9 years old when we lost our dad. From that moment on, in my mother's eyes, he became the man of the house. He was 3 years older than me, a star quarterback with straight teeth and a smile that made teachers forget he hadn't done his homework. He could do no wrong. And I mean that literally. In 17 years, I never once saw my mother blame Spencer for anything. If something broke, it was my fault. If money went missing, I must have taken it. If there was an argument, I was the one who started it. I learned early that fighting back was useless. So I became the easy one. The quiet one. The child who never complained, never asked for attention, never caused trouble. I believed that if I was good enough, small enough, invisible enough, my mother would eventually see me. She never did. My grandmother Nora, my dad's mother, lived in Tucson, about 2 hours from our home in Phoenix. During summers, Spencer often stayed with her while my mom worked extra shifts. Grandma Nora was the only person who truly noticed that I existed. She sent me books in the mail, called me on my birthday when my mother forgot, and told me stories about my father from when I was little. But she was getting older, and I didn't see her as often as I wished I could. The summer I turned 14, something changed. I was accepted into an elite arts program. It was a big deal. A full scholarship. The kind of achievement that should have made my mother proud. For one brief moment, the attention was on me. Spencer hated it. He never said it directly, but I could feel his resentment like a cold draft in the room. He started making small comments, how art programs were a waste of time, how I was probably going to embarrass the family, how the scholarship was likely a mistake. The place looked like a palace made of glass and marble. The bathroom I used had better lights than my whole school. There were gold shops, designer stores, and restaurants that looked like they belonged in a fashion magazine. I walked around with my mouth half open, feeling like a poor kid who had walked into a royal world by mistake. My clothes didn't help at all. I was wearing my favorite oversized band t-shirt from a rock group I barely listened to anymore, and jeans that were a little too long because I bought them on sale. I looked exactly like what I was, a 14-year-old girl from Arizona who had no idea where she was or what she was doing. Spencer suggested that we split up during the layover. He said he would take Mom to see the Gold Souk area, and I could go check out the bookstore. Honestly, I was happy about it. Peace was rare in my family, and I wanted to enjoy being alone for a while. Before I left, Spencer offered to hold my backpack. "You don't want to carry that everywhere," he said. "I'll keep it safe." My passport was in that backpack. My boarding pass. My emergency cash. $40 my grandmother had given me before the trip. I handed it to him without a second thought. Why wouldn't I trust my own brother? I wish I could go back to that moment. I wish I could grab that girl by the shoulders and tell her to hold onto her bag like her life depended on it. Because in a way, it did. I went to the bathroom, then spent about 15 minutes looking through books at the store. After that, I walked back to our meeting spot near gate 23. Spencer and my mother were gone. I waited. 30 minutes. Then 45. I kept telling myself they had just gotten distracted while shopping, that they lost track of time. But deep down, a sick feeling started growing in my stomach. The sick feeling in my stomach kept growing. Finally, I walked up to an information desk and asked about our flight to Bangkok. The woman behind the counter typed something into her computer. Then she looked up at me, her face changing. "That flight has already boarded, dear," she said softly. "It's moving toward the runway now." "No," I said. "My family is on that flight. I'm supposed to be on that flight." She checked again. Patricia Underwood boarded. Spencer Underwood boarded. Molly Underwood, no show. My heart stopped. Everything went blurry. I think I asked her to repeat it 3 times before the words finally made sense in my head. They left me. My own mother and brother got on that plane and flew to Thailand without me. I stood there, frozen, not knowing that in less than 2 hours, I would find out exactly why. Before we continue, if you're enjoying this story, please subscribe. And tell me in the comments where you're watching from and what time it is there. I read every single comment, and it truly means so much to me. Thank you for your support. Now, back to the story. I was still standing at the information desk, completely frozen. The woman behind the counter was talking to me, asking if I was okay, if there was someone she could call. But her voice sounded far away, like it was coming through water. Nothing felt real. My family had left me. My own mother had boarded a plane and flown away without her 14-year-old daughter. A security officer walked over and asked for my passport. "I don't have it," I whispered. "My brother has it." "What about your boarding pass?" "He has that too." The officer looked at the woman behind the counter. I could see them thinking. Unaccompanied minor. No documents. No family. No explanation. Much later, far later, I learned exactly what Spencer had done. While I was in the bathroom, he went straight to the gate. He told the airline staff that I was traveling with other relatives on a later flight. He said we had bought separate tickets, not a family package. Some special deal through my mother's work lottery. There were no warning signs. The gate agent checked his name, checked my mother's name, and let them board. But before that, Spencer had already talked to my mother. He told her I had thrown a huge tantrum in the bathroom. He said I had been talking online with a boy I met on the internet and was trying to find him in Dubai. He claimed I screamed at him. Said I told him I hated the family and wanted to be left alone forever. My mother was exhausted, stressed. And after years of believing everything Spencer said, she didn't question it. She didn't come looking for me. She didn't ask to speak to me herself. She just nodded, angry and tight-lipped, and followed Spencer onto that plane. She thought she was teaching me a lesson about gratitude, about not being dramatic, about knowing my place. She had no idea she was leaving her daughter stranded in a foreign country because her son was a liar. But I didn't know any of that yet. All I knew was that I was completely alone. No passport. Spencer had taken it from my backpack. No money. My $40 of emergency cash was in the same bag. No phone. My mother had taken it before the trip to limit screen time during the vacation. I didn't even know my mother's phone number by heart. Like most teenagers, I depended on my contacts list. I knew her number might start with a 6, maybe. But that was it. An airline employee offered to try calling her for me. They pulled up her number from the booking records and dialed. The call went straight to voicemail. She had put her phone on airplane mode, like a responsible passenger. The irony didn't escape me. Security kept asking questions. Where was I from? Where were my parents? Did I have any relatives in the UAE? Did I know anyone I could contact? I had no answers. Just tears, panic, and the growing realization that I was completely, utterly alone in one of the biggest airports in the world, halfway across the planet from home. They took me to a small security office while they decided what to do with me. A kind woman handed me water and tissues, but I could see the worry in her eyes. I was a problem. A situation. An international incident waiting to happen. I sat in that office for what felt like hours, though it was probably only about 45 minutes. My thoughts wouldn't stop racing. Why would Spencer do this? Why didn't my mother check on me herself? Why didn't anyone come looking for me? And then, without warning, his words echoed in my head. The trust fund. She can't find out. Once I turned 18. Spencer was turning 18 in just 3 months. I didn't even know there was a trust fund. My mother never talked about my father's money. She only said we were comfortable and that she worked hard to keep it that way. But Spencer knew something. He was hiding something. And now, he had left me stranded in Dubai, 3 weeks before my father's estate would become accessible to him. This wasn't a joke. This wasn't sibling rivalry gone wrong. This was bigger. And I was starting to understand just how much danger I was in. Eventually, security ran out of questions. They released me back into the terminal with vague instructions to wait near the main concourse while they contacted the embassy. I walked out, dazed, until I finally found a corner near a cafe, and I slid down onto the cold marble floor. That's when the tears came, hot and uncontrollable. I tried to cover my face with my hands. I tried not to make a scene. But I couldn't stop. I watched families walk past me. Children holding their parents' hands. Laughing. Safe. A little girl, maybe 5 years old, dropped her stuffed bear. Her father immediately picked it up, handed it back to her, and kissed the top of her head. Such a small moment. Such a normal moment. I couldn't remember the last time my mother had touched me with that kind of warmth. Maybe Spencer was right. Maybe I was unlovable. Maybe I was just a burden. A mistake. Someone the family would be better off without. Then my stomach growled loudly, cutting straight through my thoughts. I hadn't eaten in at least 8 hours. The last thing I'd eaten was a dry airplane croissant somewhere over Europe, and that felt like a lifetime ago. I looked around at the shining stores, Gucci, Prada, Chanel. The airport was overflowing with luxury, and I was sitting on the floor with absolutely nothing. The irony was so sharp, it almost made me laugh. Almost. I thought about what would happen if this were a movie. In a movie, the brave heroine would figure something out. She'd be clever. She'd make friends with a security guard. She'd discover a hidden talent. She'd have some kind of survival skills. My survival skills were making microwave ramen and sometimes remembering to do my laundry. I was doomed. Time kept passing. I leaned my back against the cold wall and tried to disappear. I had spent my whole life trying to be invisible in my own family. Now, for the first time, I wished I could be seen, just once, by someone who actually cared. And then, just when I thought I had reached the lowest point possible, a shadow fell over me. Me. I looked up. A tall man was standing there. He looked to be in his mid-50s, dressed in an elegant traditional white robe. His grey beard was neatly trimmed, and his dark eyes were kind. He looked like someone important, someone who probably owned a few of the luxury stores I couldn't even afford to step into. But he wasn't looking at me with judgment. He wasn't looking at me with pity. He was looking at me with real concern. "Young lady," he said. His English had an accent, but it was clear. "You look like someone who needs help. And I believe I know how to give it." Every instinct in my body screamed danger. A stranger. A foreign country. I was alone. This was exactly the situation my mother had warned me about my entire life. Don't talk to strangers. Don't trust people you don't know. The world is full of people who want to hurt you. But my mother had just left me in an airport. So her advice didn't feel very reliable right now. The man didn't move closer. Instead, he sat down on a nearby bench, leaving space between us. Not too far. Not too close. like he understood that I was scared and wanted to give me room. "My name is Khaled al-Rashid," he said calmly. "I work here at the airport. I am the director of guest relations." He paused, letting the words sink in. "I noticed you from across the terminal," he continued. "You reminded me of someone." I wiped my eyes with the back of my hand. "Who?" I asked. "My daughter," he said softly. "She passed away 5 years ago. She was 15. He looked at me gently. "She had the same expression you have right now. Like she was trying very hard to be invisible and hoping no one would notice her pain." I didn't know what to say. The honesty of it caught me off guard. This didn't sound like something a predator would say. This felt different. "I'm sorry," I whispered. He nodded his head slightly. "Thank you," he said. "Her name was Fatima. She had a heart condition from birth," he continued. "We knew she would not live a long life. But knowing that did not make losing her any easier." He looked at me with those calm, steady eyes. "Now," he said gently, "will you tell me why you are sitting on the floor of my airport and crying?" The way he said my airport wasn't proud or controlling. It was protective. And against every warning I had ever been taught, I started talking. I told him everything. I told him about Spencer. About the lie he told my mother. About how she believed him instantly, without questioning anything. I told him how I was marked as a no-show while my family flew to Thailand without me. I told him I had no passport. No money. No phone. No way to contact anyone. I told him about the trust fund I had overheard Spencer talking about. I didn't understand what it was, but I knew it mattered. Khaled listened without interrupting. With every detail, his face grew more serious, but he didn't look shocked. He looked like a man who had seen many things in a long career, and recognized exactly what this was. When I finished, he was quiet for a moment. "What happened to you," he said slowly, "is not just cruel. It is potentially criminal." My heart skipped. "Criminal?" I whispered. "Very serious." He nodded. "Abandoning a minor in an international airport, especially while deliberately taking her identity documents, is a serious matter under international law." My hands started shaking. "But more importantly," he said, "you are a child who needs help. And I'm going to help you." He stood up and held out his hand. "Come with me," he said. "Trust me. They will regret this." I hesitated. Every warning bell in my head was still ringing. But something deeper, something instinctive, told me this man was safe. Maybe it was the way he spoke about his daughter. Maybe it was the fact that he hadn't tried to touch me or move too close. Maybe I was just desperate. I took his hand. "First," he said as we started walking, "we need to get you somewhere safe and get you fed. When did you last eat?" "I don't know," I said. 8 hours. 10. He made a quiet sound of disapproval. "That will not do. Come." Khaled led me through hallways I didn't even know existed. Staff-only corridors. Administrative offices. Behind-the-scenes passages that connected the bright public terminal to a calm, efficient world hidden from passengers. As we walked, he explained who he was to the security guards. They nodded respectfully and stepped aside. That's when I realized something important. Khaled might not personally run a massive international investigation, but he knew exactly who to call and how to make things happen quickly. He was connected. He was respected. And he was on my side. We arrived at an administrative office with soft lighting and comfortable chairs. A woman named Aisha, kind-faced, maybe in her 40s, sat with me while Khaled made phone calls in the next room. "You're safe now, Habib," Aisha said gently, placing a plate of food in front of me. Chicken, rice, vegetables, warm bread, food from the staff cafeteria. "Whatever happened," she said, "you are safe here." I ate like I had never seen food before. That meal, honestly, was the best thing I had ever tasted. Hunger really is the best seasoning. While I ate, I could hear Khaled on the phone. His voice was calm, but there was an authority in it that made everything feel serious. "This is Director Al-Rashid," he said. I need the security footage from gates 20 through 25. Timestamp 1430 to 1600. Yes. Immediately. He paused. We have a minor who was deliberately abandoned. Her identity documents were stolen by a family member. I stopped chewing. Deliberately abandoned. Hearing someone else say those words out loud made it real. Hearing it said aloud made it real in a way it hadn't before. My brother hadn't just left me behind. He had planned it. An hour later, I saw the proof. Khaled's colleagues had pulled the security footage. They showed the exact moment. Spencer unzipping my backpack while I walked toward the bathroom. Reaching inside. Removing my passport and boarding pass with a small, deliberate smile. He tucked them into his own bag, zipped it up, and walked away like nothing had happened. Then came the gate footage. Spencer whispering to my mother. Her face twisting with anger. She nodded, lips pressed tight, and walked toward the jet bridge. Not once did she look back. Spencer followed her. Just before he disappeared through the door, he glanced back at the terminal, smiling. The footage hit me like a punch to the chest. I'd known intellectually that they had left me, but seeing it, seeing Spencer's smile, seeing my mother's complete lack of hesitation, broke something inside me. This is very clear evidence, Khaled said, sitting across from me. There is no ambiguity. Your brother stole your travel documents and deliberately separated you from your family. Your mother did not verify his story. This is abandonment. I nodded, numb. Khaled continued, softer now. I must ask you something. You mentioned a trust fund. Your brother was concerned about money. Do you know anything about your father's estate? I shook my head. My mom never talked about it. She just said, Dad left enough for us to be comfortable. I assumed that meant the house, maybe some savings, nothing more. Khaled was quiet for a moment. Sometimes, he said carefully, siblings do terrible things to protect what they believe belongs only to them. Sometimes parents make mistakes they will regret forever. Sometimes, Khaled said, people leave behind more than houses and furniture. And sometimes, those secrets become weapons. I thought about Spencer. About the phone call I'd overheard. She can't find out once I turn 18. My brother is turning 18 in 3 months, I said slowly. He had been talking about a trust fund, something he could access when he turned 18. Khaled nodded. When you return home, you should look into your father's documents, ask questions, find out what he left behind and for whom. You think this is about money? I asked. I think, he said gently, people reveal their true character when they believe no one is watching. Your brother has revealed his. The question now is what you will do with that knowledge. I didn't have an answer. I was 14, exhausted, heartbroken, sitting in an office thousands of miles from home. What could I possibly do? But somewhere inside me, a small flame was starting to burn. Not just sadness anymore. Not just confusion. Anger. My father used to call me his hidden gem. I never understood what he meant. Hidden from what? Hidden from whom? Now, sitting in that airport office with Khaled's steady gaze on me, I was starting to understand. My father had seen something. He had known somehow that I would need protection from my own family, and had tried, in whatever way he could, to give it to me. I just hadn't found it yet. Khaled's phone rang. He answered, spoke rapidly in Arabic, then turned to me with a new expression. The flight to Bangkok is still in the air, he said. They land in approximately 90 minutes. I have contacted the authorities in Thailand and the US Embassy here in Dubai. When that plane lands, your mother and brother will be met by police. My stomach dropped. Police. Child abandonment is a serious crime. International child abandonment with document theft is even more serious. Khaled paused, looking directly at me. You have a choice now, Molly. You can let this go. We can arrange for you to simply fly home, and you can pretend this never happened. Or, he smiled just a little, you can watch justice happen. And trust me when I tell you, they will regret what they have done. I thought about my mother's face on that security footage. The way she didn't even hesitate. The way she didn't look back. I thought about Spencer's smile. I want to watch, I said, my voice firmer than I expected. Khalid picked up the phone and dialed. His voice was calm, but carried an electricity that made the air in the room feel charged. This is Director Al-Rashid. I need you to contact the International Police Coordination Office and the U.S. Embassy immediately. We have a confirmed case of child abandonment by an American family. The mother and brother are currently on Emirates Flight 384 to Bangkok. I want authorities waiting when that plane lands. They are not to leave the airport. He looked at me with a small, reassuring smile. Now, young lady, let's talk about justice. A quick moment here. If this story has you on the edge of your seat, hit that like button and share it with someone who loves karma served cold. Your support helps these stories reach more people who need them. Now, back to the story. The next 90 minutes were the longest of my life. Khalid's network moved fast. Within 30 minutes of his calls, multiple agencies were involved in my case. Dubai Airport's authority security had documented everything with official timestamps. The U.S. Embassy in Dubai opened an emergency case file for me, a stranded American minor with stolen documents. Meanwhile, Thai authorities were alerted, and Bangkok airport security teams were instructed to intercept the family immediately upon landing. Every second that ticked by was a mix of dread, anticipation, and a strange, growing sense of vindication. I wasn't just waiting anymore. I was about to watch the truth hit my family like a thunderbolt at what I saw on the security footage. Her face, cold, tight-lipped, not a flicker of doubt or concern as she boarded that plane. My stomach twisted. No, she knew enough to act. And Spencer, that smile as he tucked my passport and boarding pass into his bag, it wasn't accidental. It was calculated. I swallowed hard, gripping the edge of the chair. Part of me wanted to cry again, part of me wanted to scream, but there was another feeling growing, sharp and hot: justice. They were going to regret this. Ms. Patterson's voice broke through my thoughts. Miss Underwood, if you choose to pursue charges, we can ensure that both your mother and brother face the consequences. We can also help you recover your documents safely and return home. You have options. I looked down at the plate of food I hadn't even finished. Everything about this day had been surreal. The opulent airport, the stolen documents, the authorities acting like this was all routine. But the most surreal part. I wasn't helpless anymore. Someone believed me. Someone was on my side. Someone had my back when my own family had turned their backs on me. I nodded slowly. I want to watch justice happen, I said, my voice steadier than I expected. A faint smile touched Ms. Patterson's lips. Then we will make sure the law sees exactly what happened. They won't be able to deny it. Not your brother. Not your mother. And Miss Underwood, this isn't just about punishment. It's about protecting you, making sure you're safe, and ensuring nothing like this ever happens again. I felt a strange mix of fear and anticipation. I was about to see my world turned upside down, again, but this time it would be on my terms. I wasn't invisible anymore. I was seen, and they were about to pay for what they had done. I thought again about the security footage. The way my mother didn't hesitate. The way she didn't look back. And then I remembered everything that came before this moment. Every time she believed Spencer over me. Every time she took his side without even asking for my version. Every time I tried to tell her something was wrong and she brushed me off. This wasn't a single mistake. This was the result of a pattern that had been forming my entire life. I was just too young, too desperate for her love, to see it clearly. The anger I'd felt earlier, that small flame, was growing stronger. Not hot and explosive. Cold. Steady. The kind of anger that doesn't fade. As I waited for news from Bangkok, something else happened. Something that changed everything. When the plane landed, Thai authorities detained my mother and Spencer. As part of standard procedure in a case involving a minor, they confiscated Spencer's phone as evidence. And when they reviewed his messages, they found exactly what Khalid had suspected. Texts to his girlfriend, a girl named Brittany, stretching back 3 weeks before our trip. Spencer hadn't acted on impulse. He had been planning this for almost a month. One message read, "The trip is perfect. I'll get rid of her in Dubai, and Mom will have to pick a side." She always picks me. Another message said, once Molly's out of the picture, I can convince Mom about the money. She trusts me completely. And the most damning message of all, sent just 2 days before we left Phoenix: once I turn 18, that trust fund is mine. Molly doesn't even know it exists. And if she runs away in Dubai, she won't have any standing to claim her share. Problem solved. When Khaled read those messages out loud to me, it felt like a punch to the stomach. Spencer wasn't just cruel, he was calculated. He'd seen me as an obstacle to money I didn't even know existed. And he decided to remove me from the equation permanently if he could manage it. What would have happened to me if Collie hadn't found me? If I'd stayed lost in that airport, a forgotten American teenager with no documents and no way home? I didn't want to think about it. Patterson helped me understand what Spencer had been protecting. My father, before he died 8 years ago, had set up a trust fund for both of his children. The total value was $400,000 split equally between Spencer and me. Spencer's half $200,000 would become accessible when he turned 18. That was 3 months away. My half $200,000 was structured differently. Dad had tied it to educational expenses until I turned 25. I couldn't touch the principal, but it would pay for college, graduate school, any training programs I wanted. It was protected, locked away where no one could get to it. Spencer had been trying for months to convince my mother to consolidate the funds. His argument, according to the texts, was that I was difficult and irresponsible and would waste the money on stupid art stuff. He wanted Mom to petition the court to have my share transferred to his control. If I ran away in Dubai, if I caused an international incident that made me look unstable and troubled, it would be so much easier to convince a judge that I couldn't be trusted with my own inheritance. My brother had tried to steal my future, and he'd almost gotten away with it. During a quiet moment between phone calls, Khaled sat down across from me. Aisha had brought tea, sweet, fragrant, nothing like the bitter stuff my mother drank. And we sat in silence for a while. I have seen family. Greed, Khaled said eventually, reveals a person's true character. I've seen it in my work, in my country, everywhere. Money doesn't change someone. It simply shows who they really are. I nodded, staring into my tea. But I've also seen something else, he continued. Your father loved you very much. I looked up. How do you know that? Because he structured your inheritance with protection, Khaled said. He made sure no one could take it from you. Not your mother, not your brother, not anyone. His eyes were gentle. He could sense something coming, something he could not name, but he felt it, and he had tried to protect his daughter from beyond the grave. My throat tightened. I thought about my father, really thought about him for the first time in years without crying from grief. He used to call me his hidden gem. I had always thought it was just a cute nickname, something fathers say to their daughters. But now I understood. Hidden from Spencer. Hidden from my mother's favoritism. Hidden from the family dynamic my father had seen forming even when I was 6. He had known. He had always known. Your father believed in you, Khaled said softly. Now you must believe in yourself. I didn't know if I could, but sitting there in that office, thousands of miles from home, I decided to try. The screen on the wall flickered to life. A live feed from Bangkok airport appeared. Arrivals gate. Harsh fluorescent lights. Officials in uniform standing at the ready. An American woman in a dark suit held a tablet, clearly the embassy representative. Khaled checked his watch. The plane has landed. Passengers will begin deplaning in 4 minutes. My heart began pounding so hard I could feel it in my throat. 4 minutes. 4 minutes. My mother was about to learn that her golden boy was made of something far less precious than gold. I leaned forward, eyes glued to the screen, waiting for those 2 familiar faces to emerge. The first passengers came through the gate, tired and rumpled from the long flight. Business travelers checking their phones. Families corralling children. An elderly couple walking slowly, arm in arm. And then I saw them. My mother stepped out first, adjusting her carry-on, looking around the terminal with the slightly dazed expression of someone who'd just crossed multiple time zones. Hair perfectly neat, clothes unwrinkled. She looked like a woman on vacation, ready to enjoy herself. Spencer followed right behind her, laughing at something on his phone, actually laughing. Not a care in the world, not a single thought about the sister he'd abandoned 12 hours ago in a foreign airport. They looked so normal, so relaxed, like they hadn't done a thing wrong. 2 Thai police officers and the US Embassy representative approached them calmly. I watched my mother's face shift. Confusion first, then concern, then the first sparks of real fear. The embassy woman spoke first. I couldn't hear the words on the video feed, but I could see the effect. Patricia Underwood's eyes widened. She was being told, officially, irrevocably, that her daughter had been found abandoned at Dubai International Airport, that authorities had been contacted, and that this was now an official international incident. My mother's first instinct was defense. Her mouth moved rapidly. Even without sound, I knew the words, "There must be a mistake. She's lying." She had a tantrum. She wanted to be left alone. Spencer stood beside her, shifting uncomfortably now, the first trace of unease flickering across his face. Beside her, Spencer nodded along, playing the supportive, concerned older brother. She's always been dramatic. She probably did this for attention. You know how she is. The Thai officer produced a tablet and pressed play. I watched my mother watch the security footage. I watched her see her son unzipping my backpack while I walked away, trusting him completely. I watched her see him remove my passport with that small, deliberate smile. I watched her see him tuck it into his own bag like it was nothing. The color drained from her face, flushed pink to pale to completely, utterly white. Spencer tried to speak. I could see his lips moving fast, probably saying it was just a prank, just a joke, that he would fix it later. The same excuses he had used his whole life. The officer swiped to the next screen. Spencer's text messages to Brittany. My mother read the words her son had written. I couldn't see the screen from the video feed, but I didn't need to. I already knew what was there. Once Molly's out of the picture, I can convince Mom about the money. That trust fund is mine. She doesn't even know it exists. Patricia Underwood's hand flew to her mouth. Her whole body seemed to crumple, like someone had cut her strings. Spencer's mask finally fell. I'd watched him charm his way out of trouble my entire life. Teachers, coaches, neighbors, our mother. Everyone fell for his smile, his confidence, his easy excuses. He'd never faced a consequence he couldn't talk his way around. But you can't charm your way out of evidence. You can't smile at a security camera and make it unsee what it recorded. You can't explain away text messages written in your own words. Spencer's face went from confident to confused to scared in the span of about 30 seconds. His shoulders hunched, his eyes darting. For the first time in 17 years, he wasn't in control. His hands started shaking. He tried to step back, like he could escape what was happening, but the officers were already standing on both sides of him. I thought I would feel happy watching this. I thought it would feel like victory. But I didn't. I just felt tired, sad, and relieved that it was finally over. The embassy representative lifted a tablet. Suddenly, my mother's face appeared on the screen. She could see me. I could see her. She looked completely broken. Mascara ran down her cheeks. Her eyes were red and swollen. She looked older than I had ever seen her before. "Molly," she cried. Her voice broke. "Baby, I'm so sorry. I didn't know. Spencer told me. He said you wanted to stay. I thought you didn't want to come." My voice was calmer than I expected. "You didn't ask me," I said. "You didn't come find me and ask what happened. You just believed him." "I know," she sobbed. "I know. I'm so sorry." "You always believe him," I continued. "I'm not angry. I'm just telling the truth. My whole life, you've chosen him over me. Every single time." She cried harder. Behind her, Spencer stared at the floor. "Dad would never have left me," I said quietly. "He knew. He always knew what Spencer was. That's why he protected my inheritance. Because he knew you wouldn't." My mother flinched like I had slapped her. I could have said more. I could have reminded her of every time she failed me. Every time I needed her and she wasn't there. But there was no reason. She already knew. She had always known. She just chose not to see it. "I'm done," I said. "I'm done being invisible. I'm done being the one who doesn't matter." The embassy representative gently took the tablet away. The call ended. I sat there in silence. I had gotten popcorn, but before I left the office, Khaled had arranged my return home. The US Embassy had issued emergency clearance for my travel. Aisha placed a hand gently on my shoulder. Khaled said nothing. He just sat nearby, a calm, steady presence. Over the next hour, the legal consequences were announced. Spencer would be detained and returned to the US under escort. His phone held all the evidence. Juvenile authorities in Arizona would review his case for child endangerment and theft. He was 17, old enough to face serious consequences, young enough that it wouldn't completely ruin his future. My mother faced potential charges too. But because she hadn't known the full extent of Spencer's plan, and because I was willing to cooperate, she would likely receive a formal warning and mandatory family counseling instead of prosecution. The trust fund situation would be overseen by a court-appointed guardian. My inheritance. Safe. More than safe. Now it was protected by legal documentation that made it impossible for anyone to touch. And Spencer. He had risked everything for his athletic future. A Division I football scholarship, starting quarterback, his dreams of going pro. That scholarship required a clean record. This incident, documented, investigated, internationally coordinated, would follow him. Even if charges were reduced or dropped, the record would exist. Coaches would ask questions. Background checks would reveal the truth. Everything he had tried to protect by eliminating me, his money, his future, his status, was now at risk. And he had done it to himself. With his own words, his own actions, his own arrogant certainty that he would never get caught. Karma, it turns out, has perfect timing. I really should have gotten popcorn earlier. Travel documents were arranged under standard procedure for stranded American minors, so I could fly without my stolen passport. Emirates upgraded me to first class. Airline staff would escort me the entire way. Khaled handed me his business card, old-fashioned, cream-colored, elegant. "If you ever need anything," he said, "anything at all, you call this number. It will always reach me." "Why?" I asked. "Why did you help me? You didn't have to." He was quiet for a moment. "Because you reminded me of Fatima, my daughter. She was kind like you, quiet like you, overlooked like you." He paused. "She would have wanted me to help someone who needed it. And you needed it." I hugged him. It was probably inappropriate. We barely knew each other, came from completely different worlds, but in that moment, he felt more like family than anyone I shared blood with. "You are stronger than you know," Khaled said. "Your father was right. You are a hidden gem, but you will not stay hidden much longer." The first-class flight from Dubai to Phoenix was 18 hours of surreal luxury. Warm towels, gourmet meals on actual plates, a seat that transformed into a bed with real sheets. Flight attendants treated me like royalty after the airline briefed them on my situation. I kept thinking, this is the most expensive thing that's ever happened to me, and I didn't pay a single cent. Perhaps a lesson in how the worst experiences can lead to unexpected blessings. But honestly, I was too tired to feel a zoophise. I just ate my fancy salmon dinner, watched 3 movies, and slept like the dead. When I landed in Phoenix, my grandmother Nora was waiting at arrivals. She looked older than I remembered. It had been almost a year since I'd seen her, but her hug, it made every lonely, terrifying moment I'd endured worth it. Young and done her best to hold a family together, who was flawed and broken and finally willing to admit it. "I don't know if I can forgive you," I said honestly. "Not yet. Maybe not ever," she nodded, tears streaming down her face. But I continued, "I'm willing to try. If you actually do the work, therapy, honesty, real change, not just saying sorry and expecting everything to go back to normal." "I will," she whispered. "I promise. I will." It wasn't forgiveness, but it was a start. Spencer's fate was simpler. Probation until age 21, mandatory counseling for manipulative behavior, community service hours that would take years to complete, and a permanent notation on his record that disqualified him from his Division I scholarship. He ended up living with Grandma Nora, too, eventually separate from me, in the guest room on the other side of the house. Our mother couldn't look at him the same way anymore, and he needed somewhere to go. Last I heard, years later, he was working as a mechanic's assistant at an auto shop in Tucson. Honest work, humble work, a far cry from his quarterback dreams, but maybe exactly what he needed. I don't feel satisfaction about his downfall. I don't feel triumph. I just feel a quiet relief that he can't hurt me anymore. 2 weeks after I got back from Dubai, Grandma Nora sat me down with a box of my father's documents. "I've been keeping these for you," she said. "Waiting until you were old enough, until it was time." Inside, I found everything. The trust fund paperwork, bank statements, legal documents, and at the very bottom, a letter in my father's handwriting dated 1 week before he had written it to me before he died. Even then, he knew something was wrong in our family. He had seen Spencer's behavior, the manipulation, the cruelty, the way he treated me when adults weren't watching. He couldn't name it exactly, but he felt it. So, he had structured my inheritance with extra protection, locking it away where no one could touch it until I was 25 and fully independent. He had even added a separate life insurance policy, designated entirely to me, not out of favoritism, but because he knew Spencer would be taken care of by our mother. I was the one who needed protecting. The letter ended with words I will never forget. "Molly, my hidden gem. You will face storms in this family, but you are built to weather them. Be patient, be strong, and know that your father loved you more than words can say. I believe in you. Love always, Dad." The total inheritance I accessed at 25 was $600,000. $200,000 from the original trust fund, $400,000 from the life insurance. Enough to change my life completely. I used it wisely, starting my import-export business specializing in artisan goods from the Middle East. Because sometimes the universe has a sense of humor. I built it into something real, successful, and entirely my own. I stayed in contact with Khaled. He attended my college graduation, standing in the back row, quietly wiping his eyes. Every year on the anniversary of the Dubai incident, I send him flowers. He sends me books about business, philosophy, and finding strength in dark times. My relationship with my mother healed slowly, carefully, with clear boundaries, regular therapy, and honest conversations that sometimes hurt, but always helped. We are not best friends. We probably never will be best friends, but we're real with each other now, and that's more than we ever had before. Thank you so much for watching. More of my most gripping stories are already on your screen. Click one now, don't miss the best part, you'll love it. See you in the next one. If you want, I can combine this with your full Dubai story into a single, ready-to-publish script with a viral storytelling flow. It would read smoothly from start to finish, keeping all the suspense, emotion, and resolution. Do you want me to do that?